Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
4:17 a.m. The wig and everything was gone, put away, never going to touch it again, right? And then it was like Saturday, I'm out driving around. We're going to check cut and make sure everything's good. And I remember driving by one, and Ralph is stimping, checking greens and everything. And he stops what he's doing, comes off the green. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Like, this is where I'm going to get yelled at. I'm going to be asked to never effing do that again. And he walked up to me. He's like, where's Dwayne? I was like, Ralph, you better be sure you want Dwayne back. I'll go get him right now. He's like, yeah, go get him. So next thing you know, I'm on 18 green on tournament Sunday, dressed up as this douchebag, check and cut, in front of all the patrons, like all these people. I have photos of it, right? I have a video last year. Charlie was like, Mike, you got to drive through the crowd as Dwayne. And so I did. And Charlie drove behind me and filmed it. So when we finished this past tournament in 23, I drove through the crowd as Dwayne with like 2 Live Crew playing on I got a little beeper. It's a Bluetooth beeper now that has a speaker in it. I had that playing 2 Live Crew as I drove through the crowd.
That's amazing.
And Charlie said the reactions he saw were the funniest reactions he's seen in a long time, because people, like, as I drove by, dudes, all the bros are like, bro, did you see this guy just drive by? Like, and then I'll be driving through, people be yelling like, hey, yo, what up, dude? Like, as I'm going through the crowd. People are high-fiving me. The NBC TV guys, like, they give me the Jeep wave, you know, like as I drive by, they hit Dwayne with the Jeep wave too. They probably think I'm a sound engineer or something like that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Turf Today, presented by Toro. Count on it. My name is Adam Kershane, and I am joined by nobody. A bunch of people. Yes, I shouldn't say nobody, a bunch of people. We're doing the summer recap today. We did have a few different things lined up for this week, but with the recent events of everything going on in the States, with all the weather and all that and the hurricanes, we kind of had to pull back. So that's an interview hopefully we'll get to in a not too distant future, but for now we're just going to give everybody some space. We've decided to do a bit of a summer recap, so it's a great episode, highlights a few different tidbits and a few different stories from the summer and the season. We thought it was great. We could have highlighted everything, really. You know, if you're somebody who really wants to get back into the show or get really immersed in the show, I suggest going back and listening to all the interviews. You know, there's been a lot of great ones on here. They're not really long episodes. They're very easy listens, we've been told. So even just getting into it over the winter is nice, or the off season. You know, there's a lot of great stories on there. There's a lot of great things to get into when you're doing some of the stuff indoors or out in the tractor, whatever it may be. This episode is actually recorded on the Superintendent Network, where we are trying to bring a lot more content to you guys. Like we were mentioning last episode, check us out on YouTube, because we are starting to load a lot more stuff on there. So like I mentioned, we would have loved to highlight everybody, but we just have a few things we've pulled out of the most recent episodes, and hope everybody enjoys it. It also gives everybody a little bit of chance to catch up, because we've gotten a bunch of messages recently about people saying that they need time to catch up. So we understand everybody's busy. Everything we're doing together, we certainly couldn't do without you guys, and we appreciate all the support and all the love that comes in. You know, it certainly keeps us motivated, and we want to keep growing this thing like we always talk about, and seeing the numbers and seeing how healthy the show is right now. It's great to see that people are enjoying it and people are sharing it, and you know, there's the comments that have come in there's a few different schools that have sent us emails saying, you know, people have joined our programs because of your episodes, and people have gotten into this industry because of your episodes or the stuff you guys post online, and that is incredible feedback to get. We're trying to help, and in the same sense, you know, you guys are helping us kind of live this dream of being able to showcase it all. Brian and I are very, very fortunate to be in this job, and you know, we don't take it lightly at all. We're passionate about it, and we're willing to work hard to support everybody in the industry. All right, enough from me right now. We're going to throw it down to Rich McIntosh. This was a great episode. I suggest going back to listen to this episode. Rich is the director of agronomy down at the Colonial Country Club, and he talks to us a little bit about building culture.
I think we're just now getting to a point where we can kind of take a breath and focus on culture. And I saw something the other day And it was a quote or a story about Chick-fil-A and how, they went from they tried to instill the culture of always saying my pleasure, and trying to get all of the chains and Chick-fil-A and all the different locations to make sure that was said constantly and all the time. And I think it said it took 6 to 8 years. So as even as good of a corporation or business model as Chick-fil-A is, it still takes time to develop and build that culture. So I'm a very impatient person, and it's one of my weaknesses, and trying to make sure that, I want to build that culture right now. But it's going to take time. It's going to take time to get people in the place. And I think it's getting your assistants to buy in. And then also, they're the ones that are leading and coaching the staff. So instilling those same ideals and types of things in them to pass down to the staff, to start building that culture. And it's not easy. I'm starting to focus on it a little bit more now because we're kind of through some of the big heavy lifting, but there's some growing pains, and there's some staff issues that you're going to need to go through. And, we may have a little bit more work that we need to take on to kind of get through some of those staff issues. And I think I'm more worried or concerned or focused on making sure we have the right people and not just enough people. Does that mean, hiring and letting go some people that are issues and making sure you maintain that culture? It's what we have to do. And like I said, we might have to roll greens, mow greens, or pick up some of the slack during certain times of the year. But I think it's better for our staff, and it's better for the culture here, to kind of struggle through some of those issues rather than just making sure we have bodies here to do the work.
Turf Today is proudly brought to you by Toro. And we want to ask you, why choose a Toro greens mower? Well, for over 100 years, Toro has partnered continuously with golf customers the world over to provide the finest playing green services after cut appearance in the industry. Key to top-level play is consistent and precise cut. Their Greensmaster line represents Toro's commitment to innovation and excellence, enabling every maintenance crew the ability to provide tournament-quality greens. Whether the efficiency of a triplex rider or the detailed appearance of a walker is desired, Toro has a Greenmaster to fit any facility or application. To check them out, go to toro.com. All right, next up we have Keith Krasina, who's another director, the director of grounds at the golf club in Ohio. And he talks about two different superintendents.
Well, for the young guys out there, there's two types of superintendents: guys that have lost grass and guys that will. And there's two types of superintendents. There's guys that have and guys that will. Now, I've always said that, and I've made my share of mistakes and I've killed my share of grass. I think that's why a lot of people call me. I tell people all the time, the reason you called me is because I've killed more grass than you. And but I figured it out over time. So if you make a mistake, figure out why you made your mistake and don't do it again. The guys that move on in this business are the guys that figure out their mistakes and they don't make them a second time. That makes you a better superintendent. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I've been doing this a long time, and I've made my share of mistakes. Trust me, I look back to some of the things, and I'm just thankful that the members still trusted me, because I've killed my share of grass out here, but I've always had the reasons why. I've always communicated, and it's never happened again. Now, I've never killed grass the same way twice. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
There's a lot of ways to kill grass. I've figured that out for the years.
Well, they like it firm and fast out there, so it's okay. Dead grass usually plays pretty quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, but another cohort of mine, if I can mention Clay Stewart, I was talking to him on the phone, and he goes, Keith, everybody loves it firm and fast until it's dead and wet.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what do I got now? So dead and wet, no fun. So pushing firm and fast and calling it brown is great, but when it's dead and wet, it ain't no fun. And so you got to be careful. You got to be careful with what you do and how far you push it.
That was a great time getting a chat with Keith. We're going to switch gears and send it down to John Ballard, who was the golf course superintendent of the Valhalla Golf Club and this year's host of the PGA Championship. And John talks to us a little bit about building his team there at Valhalla.
Yeah, so I guess you'd have to go back just a little bit. When I was hired in 2019, it was the fall of 2019. You're kind of ready to tackle the world. You're at Valhalla Golf Club. And Roger Meyer, the previous superintendent who had left for Frisco, really kind of intentionally didn't sort of fill the cupboard. He had some guys that were departing with him at the same time. And he told me, he's like, hey, John, I'm just not going to hire people. I'm going to let you kind of build your team. And so when I got here, like I said, the cupboard was pretty bare. But I was pretty confident we were going to make sure we had the right folks. Then you sort of get into 2020, COVID hits. Now it becomes an even bigger challenge. We're trying to maintain this massive property. We don't have the team in place that we need. But I tried to stay pretty true to, I'm going to get the right people, even if it takes a while, even if we do this with 8 of us, with 12 of us, and kind of slowly build. And so the first piece of that was really trying to find a lead assistant, kind of a right-hand man. And Phil Vineyard was the guy. I kind of knew that from the first time I interviewed him. He's a Tennessee guy, which I love. I'm a Tennessee guy, but Phil had been at multiple places. He was definitely a career-driven guy that has experience at a lot of different venues. And most recently, he had been at TPC Sawgrass for a little over 3 years. So he's got championship golf experience under his belt. He just kind of fit sort of the culture of what we were trying to do here. And so brought Phil on in the summer of that 2020 season right there. And so once we got that going, more pieces kind of started to fall into place in terms of other assistants. We've had some come and go. I think that, Valhalla is going to set itself up to be that young folks are going to come, they're going to get their experience and kind of get that brand. And then we want them to be able to go on and get some different things. But from Phil, after going through a couple, we now have Justin Wild, who's really our front 9 assistant. Justin did an internship with us. He was at State Tech College in Missouri, just knocked it out of the park as an intern. So when we had an opening, he was the immediate first call. Didn't even post that job. And then we had another assistant left and went to some better things, and we posted that. And we're fortunate enough that Peyton Hobby, who was at Trinity Forest at the time down in Texas, had an interest and kind of tapping into Peyton's Zoysia knowledge, that they've got down there with Casey. And so he was a great hire for us, and then we've just kind of been able to build and expand on that. But I think being patient first has really kind of led us into some really good setup right now.
Turf Today is also brought to you by Apex 10 by Green Nature. And Apex 10 is a peat humic substance that's OMRI registered and works as an electron donor and acceptor. Apex 10 increases microbial populations, and the active material in Apex 10 is 89.4% organic matter. For more information, check them out at greennature.life. Next, we head down to Florida and we hear from the one and only Darren Davis, one of my all-time favorite guests and somebody we were really hoping we'd get on at some point. Darren is a fantastic superintendent and an even better human being. I can't wait to meet him in person one day, hopefully this year at the show. Here he is talking about the perception that people have on the industry and how far he thinks we have come.
We have. And I'm not saying we're where we need to be. And I know many people listening to this are going to say, what's he talking about? We're not there. We don't get the respect we deserve. And I think some of that, it goes to the individual. You have to earn that respect. There's many examples I can give you of how somebody could do that. But as an industry, as a whole, we have come so far. I mean, from being seen as the person in the overalls, the Carl Spackler, to where we are today. I love traveling the country and talking about this because every region's different. I get that. I have some pretty steadfast rules that I believe in. But, you have to first and foremost show that professionalism yourself. But I'm proud of the industry, and I am proud of what GCSAA and others have done, past leaders of GCSAA, past board members. When I travel, not only as a board member for the 10 years I served the association, but I still travel. Primarily, I wear a GCSA shirt. Occasionally, I'll put an old Florida shirt on. But I'm telling you, Brian, it's probably 8 out of 10 times I get on a plane and I get asked, oh, you're a superintendent. Oh, you're a member of Golf Course Superintendent Association. Oh, thank you for being a superintendent. It happens all the time. Got a text message from a vendor literally 2 weeks ago. He said, I just have to tell you, Darren. He says, I was in a Starbucks 2 days ago, and I'm in a restaurant today, and I'm working on my laptop, and I've got a GCSA sticker on my laptop, both days somebody stopped and said, "You're a superintendent." And the second day, "Thank you for being a superintendent." So, we don't have to change our titles anymore to director of agronomy. I'm not saying you shouldn't have that title, and people do. Director of agronomy, director of golf course and grounds, whatever. People know what a superintendent is now. When I first got in the industry, you all probably don't remember this show, but there was a show when Dwayne Schneider was the superintendent of a building. And that's what people thought a superintendent was, superintendent of a school or a superintendent of a maintenance guy at a building. Today people know that we are the keepers of the grounds, the keeper of the largest asset of a club. We're the go-to people at the club. We're the problem solvers. So in my opinion, we've come a long way, a very long way.
It was an absolute honor to have Darren Davis on the show, and we can have him back soon, I hope. We're going to head up to Arizona now, where we talk to MKC, an assistant superintendent up there. She tells some awesome stories, really cool girl. She actually talks a little bit about the timing and how to find the time in the turf schedule, because it is difficult. And if you're dating somebody or engaged to somebody in the turf industry, well, you know all about that.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
That's why I don't exercise.
I feel like I have to be able to keep up with everyone.
Yeah.
When we're throwing bags of fertilizer, I only weigh 130 pounds. I'm small. These bags weigh half what I weigh.
That's a good workout in itself, just working out there all day, right?
Well, I'm a psychopath and I go to the gym before work.
Whoa.
Oh, goodness.
You have an hour drive. Time you go to the gym?
My alarm goes off at 2:05.
2:05. Oh, that's a record.
Yes.
I think you win.
Yeah. Not that necessarily the record I think I want, but
What time do you go to bed?
oh, what time is it? It's 5:40. I'll probably be asleep in 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 8 o'clock-ish. Depends who you ask. If you ask Lee, I'm usually asleep on the couch by 6:30, but I go to bed at 8. Well, this year we're super lucky. We have the same weekend schedule.
Oh,
so last year we had opposite weekends, so I literally never saw him. I think I saw him one day a week. But now we have the same weekends off. So we get to hang out every other weekend. And his golf course is really close to our house. So if he gets stuck there late on a Saturday and I get home, I can always run over and kind of hang out. And I've hand watered with him a couple times.
I was gonna say, does he throw a hose in your hand?
Yes.
We need 6,
you're
7,
working,
and 8.
by the way.
It's oh, the sports field. Do you know how to use the hose? You remember how to use Rainbird? I know you have Toro, but remember how to plug in?
Did Lee propose on the golf course?
No, we'd only been working in golf for a year. He proposed in Indiana at his parents' lake house.
Okay.
Super
Romantic.
random. Took me really off guard. We'd just come back from the CrossFit gym, and what better time?
We'll now head overseas to the Royal Liverpool to hear from James Bledge, the links manager. And he tells us all about living on the golf course. Check this one out.
So I'll start with the bad. I could actually show you quickly, So this is my office here. The office door comes right, and this is just how close I actually am. This is probably no good for a podcast, but for your listeners. But that's my front door there, and there's the sheds.
Oh wow!
That's how close we are. Yeah. So it's right beside it. But the bad thing is, if you are having an issue with a member of staff or whatever, you cannot separate home life and work life from that. But luckily that doesn't happen often. But what's happening a lot just now during school holidays is I'm quite often have a meeting in here, or we're meeting some people at the front, and Jenny's having a domestic with the kids next door because they're acting up. So you can't trying to when the kids are like that, which all kids are, then it's very difficult. And you know what? It is what it is. I think you just kind of laugh it off. And my team they're good with the kids and stuff. And luckily, me and Jen don't fall out biblically, or there's never any shouting. You wouldn't be able to, if you were in that kind of relationship where we're having any domestics, then everyone would know about it. So that's one thing. So my staff know everything about me, and you can't hide that. the other bad thing, which is sometimes a good thing as well, is if there's ever, especially at this time of year when there's summer holidays, there's kids on the course at night, they try and set fire to things if they're having barbecues or they're running about in the fairways. I've got that many spies around the golf course and houses that I've met. They'll phone you up and I have to go out and deal with it. But I suppose it's a good thing because if I wasn't here, then I would worry more if I had to come across town. So that's really the only negative. I mean, the positives is if the boys text me at night saying, "Oh, Bledge, can I have this date off holiday? I can come in here, I can change it on the rota. If I want to, if I go out at night with the pogo or the moisture meter, I can check the greens and come and change the irrigation cycles. If I can play a few holes, I might come in and change this whole board behind me to say, oh, greens were a bit woolly tonight, right? Maybe we change this about and give them a groom tomorrow, or we can do some verti cutting." And you can do that instantly. I know we have these modern systems of turf keeper or ground to control, the software you can use. But for me, I mean, I love technology. I use a lot of technology, which we can talk about later. But I love the old school. I mean, this is a whiteboard behind me with magnets on it that I move up and down, like a football manager. I have little blue magnets for days holidays and green ones for half days. And it's right next to my house, so I can change it and then it's off my mind. And as I said, I don't work hours. I do what suits me, what suits the course. It works for both of us. The club do well out of it and I do well out of it because they get a lot extra from me because I'm always here. It's easy for me to go up to the clubhouse for meetings. It's easy for me to meet people on site that can only do hours outside of work, which quite often is the case. But most of all, I mean, I love my job, and sometimes I'll actually think, we've got this moor in on demo. I'm just going to go out and have a bash, or go out and do a wee bit of watering at night or something like that. Or it's just quite nice to be able to do that. And also the biggest one, no neighbours, which is great.
Yes.
I don't have to. And I play guitar as well, so especially in the winter, I mean, I can have my amp up fairly loud, and actually there's never an issue. And we've had some good parties as well, Jen and I, and we've never had any complaints because there's no one to complain, which is great.
What an amazing episode getting to speak with James. Definitely go back and download that one. It's got a lot of cool stuff in there. I'm sure you didn't even know about the Open or how they prepare for it. I was blown away when we got to talk to him, so definitely check that one out. We're going to head over now to Muirfield Village and hear from Chad Mark, the Director of Grounds. But before we do that, just wanted to talk quickly about the Superintendent Network Community Member Program. If you didn't know about that, you can go to superintendentnetwork.com and sign up to become a community member. And you get a bunch of swag, a bunch of newsletters throughout the year, a ton of access, early access to different videos, a bunch of stuff that normal people wouldn't get to see, a bunch of newsletters that come out. You get first access to certain things and discounts to different stuff. It's been growing over the years, and I became a member this year, and I've benefited from a bunch of different things and been enjoying all the different stuff that Brian sent me. So it's something we were planning on growing, and it's only going to get better. So why not sign up? If you're a superintendent or an assistant, you can put your memberships through your course, just add it to the list, and 2025 Superintendent Community Member. Put it on there. We want to see you guys. So go to the website, sign up. There's a lot of cool stuff. We showed off the knife that Brian gave off last year with the logo on it. Oh, the knife alone is worth signing up for the package. Get on it. All right. Here's Chad talking about helping people move on in the industry.
Well, I think it's a little bit of a complex answer. And I think it starts with the fact that I had an internship working for John Zimmers and Jim Roney back in the 90s when Sand Ridge was being built and opened. That really changed the course of my career. I felt that I got put into every aspect of maintenance and management that I could ever get put into down the road. And I take internships very seriously, and I want our interns to feel that same way that I did, I guess 25 years ago. But, we look at it, more time off now is a great thing. I worked, I guess 6 months straight with maybe a day off in that 6 months to go see my brother graduate. Nowadays, these guys are working 10 days on, 2 days off. And I think that does a couple of things. It gives us a chance to be diverse in their task load. When certain guys are off, it might be a chance for somebody else to spray or hand water greens or something like that. But it also makes us better as a staff when we can get as many of these staff members trained on as many items as you can get them trained on. When someone's out, it's not like we can't do that today. We don't have him, and I know that, there's a lot of instances in the past where, well, we had 2 or 3 guys that did all the spraying. Well, we probably have 7 or 8 that can right now. And so you're not hurt if somebody's off, and you can give people time off, and it makes us fresh when you get to August and September. We don't have that burnout look to us. So I think it makes our staff better by having them learn as many things as they can learn and be trained on as many things as they can be trained on. And I think it makes them happy because they have some ownership in things. I think that's a key for our staff is that we don't only learn from me or the assistants. It's a learning environment that you're learning from the other interns. If you go back to the house that night, maybe you weren't on a spray or maybe you weren't watching greens that day, but you can talk to the others that were, and then you're going to have your time here coming up. And I think that's what keeps them motivated. I think it keeps them coming back. We have several repeat interns this year. And I think that they go tell their friends, like, hey, you'll go there and get to learn stuff. You won't be doing the same thing every day. We really diversify what we do with them. And I think that really helps our culture.
You mentioned a little bit of ownership. How much do you put it on them and ask them, hey, what do you want this to be? Is that something you approach with them when they first arrive?
Yeah, I think that we do a questionnaire here when we talk to them during the turf talks. Is like, this is what you've done so far, but what are the things you really want to get accomplished in the next 2.5, 3 months? And we talk about that during the intern process too, interview process. But we also tell them during the interview process that these first few 3-4 weeks that you're here are going to be really intense, and it's not like that the whole year. And we get an idea of what they're good at and what they'd like to see more of during the interview process. But then we really dial in on, okay, you've seen it now for a month. What else do you really want to dive into? We had one of our interns that really wanted to try some irrigation repair and maintenance. And so, we've really tried to get him on that here the last 2 weeks. Some other guys wanted to spray. Some other guys wanted really good hand watering, which even our repeat interns didn't get a lot of that last year because it was a wet summer. They've got it this year. Last week was probably more hand watering experience for some of those guys than they did all of last year with the heat wave we had. But it's constant feedback here. I tell people all the time, if you're waiting for your annual review, then you're not paying attention, because we're constantly giving people feedback and constantly asking questions. And we have that rapport with all the guys, not just the interns, but with our entire staff. And we really try to be dialed in every day with what they're seeing, what they're feeling. Are they tired? Do they need a break? That kind of thing. So I think the constant communication that we have with them, we feel like we're in a pretty good spot with them most of the time.
Well, it wouldn't be a summer recap episode without hearing from Mike O'Keefe, a.k.a. the International Stud, out of the Ohio State program. And Mike talks to us a little bit about education and coming from overseas.
When you sit around with general managers or members and they look and say to me, and I get calls oftentimes, Mike, we've got 4 applicants. Which one would you pick? And I go through and I look at it from a mindset of, we can get a guy that has a 4-year degree from the University of Guelph versus a guy that has no education. He's a great grafter. Who are we going to buy? Who are we going to pick? We're going to pick the guy with the more education because we're going to get more value from him. He's going to bring more to the table than the guy. Maybe a great grafter, but he's not going to have that education and that technical ability. So get an education first. I will help you. I remember a young lady from Poland contacted me. She'd heard of somebody doing this and she had no education. What I first told her to do, go get a job at a local golf course. Oh, well, they don't hire women. And I said, really? They don't hire women? Yes. Well, there's no jobs there. I said, go find the head greenkeeper and ask him if you can volunteer. And she goes, what is that? I said, go ask him if you can work for free. And that will always skew them like completely. Like, what? You want to work for free? Well, that's great. Well, yeah, sure. Come in 1 day a week. She did that. And then after 6 months, he offered her a job and she got a job. And I said, then you've got to start getting an education. Here's some online courses. Here's this you can do, this you can do. So I literally coached her up the way through her education. And then she came on the program and she wanted to do more. And I said, I'm not sure this online system And I didn't mean it as an offense or anything, but I just don't know if you could handle this thing because her English wasn't the best. Well, she took it like a red rag to a bull and took offense to it. And she goes, "What do you mean I can't do this or I'm not capable?" I said, "I'm just saying it's difficult to do it online in your own time." She not only took the one certificate, she took the second certificate, and she sent me a picture with both certificates up like this. And my Polish guy said, "Boy, you really pissed her off." And I said, "Greg, do you see what I was doing? I was testing her to see if she was willing to put the commitment in, and now she's done it." Long story short, she's gone on to Australia. I helped her get down to Australia. She got a job on a golf course in Australia. She is now working for Onview. I don't know if you know what Onview is. It's a chemical company in Australia. And she came up to me at the show a couple of weeks ago and said, "I told them the story about you saying I wasn't good enough." And I said,
Nothing
"You
wrong with some
did?"
motivation.
Yes. And I said, "Well, I'm really proud of you, Martina. I'm really proud of you." Now she's doing sales and marketing down in Australia. So there's a framework. I will help somebody, Adam, up through the system. But to get into this country on a visa, you have to have a turf education as well. And it's very difficult. When you come out of South Africa, for example, there was no turf education in South Africa. You had to go into Stellenbosch University and get a 4-year degree in soil science or in agronomy, and you couldn't get something in turf. Now there is a school that teaches turf and golf, but many times it's all about giving them the right direction and encouraging. Because if much as I might like you, if you don't have a turf education pathway, you're not going to get a visa from the US Embassy because they're just seeing somebody searching to get to America. And that doesn't work.
The Mike O'Keefe episode is definitely worth going back and listening to. One of my favorites for sure. And we're going to finish things off today with a famous PGA Tour agronomist, a Olympic Tour agronomist. That doesn't make any sense, but Thomas Bastis. I got to say, one of our most popular episodes by far. People loved him, and he could go on for days, but we got a great little spiel from him about course setup during a big tournament and some of the different things going on with the greens and the GS3 ball. So this one's going to take us home. We really enjoyed putting something fun out for you guys this week, and we got a big one for you next week. So keep those reels sharp. Tommy's going to take us home. You guys take care.
There's one agronomist that is on site, and he's there the week before. There is one rules official that joins me. We call the advanced rules official. And that advanced rules official goes around the golf course with me. He starts laying out the penalty areas and getting the general feel of the golf course. On Monday of tournament week, a additional set of 7 to 8 rules officials come in, and there are 2 that are designated the front 9 setup and the back 9 setup. They will completely own where they're going with their hole locations, providing the right balance, providing the right test, providing the right locations, and metering out the competition over those 4 days. They will set a whole location for Wednesday's Pro-Am so that they don't, screw up the tournament hole locations.
Mm-hmm.
I work in concert with them to make sure that areas that they want to use on a green work for their setup. It's not too fast. It's not too firm. It's not too anything. That if there's a unique place on the green that they want to use from a competition standpoint that they feel is challenging or the right amount of challenge, they employ me to make sure that those conditions meet that whole location's requirements. And that's where we work 100% lockstep with them to make sure that it works. That's why we control green speeds. Sure, we could always have faster green speeds, but then we would have pretty boring setups, and that's where I don't get it with country clubs. There's this masochistic approach to setting up the member guests and the like, where in some instances, our green speeds for the PGA Tour, we have to slow our greens down for our events compared to member events. And member events are also playing, usually it's a 1 day or a 2 day. They don't have to find 4 competitive hole locations for an event.
Right.
So yeah, they've got the one spot on the green that they can put the cup, but every year it ends up having to be the same spot. For us, in some instances, it's usually the same thing. Sometimes we only have 4 locations because the way that the architecture of that hole works. But at the same time that members are wanting 13, they don't want rough that's 3.5 inches because they feel like they would be making the golf course, because they can't play it. They get upset when you take out a tree because they feel like you're making the golf course too easy. They want the greens to be because they want it to be hard. It's this weird kind of like, I don't get. It's a disconnect. So that green speed is the driver of quality of a golf course, and it couldn't be farther with the truth. Fortunately, the GS3, the USGA ball, is going to give us a couple of more metrics to look at, like smoothness. That smoothness should be the priority over green speed. So
we've been playing around with that. And you've been testing that even before it was launched. How do you think that GS3 is going to change the industry?
I hope for the better, but there's obviously some minds that are there. Figuring out where to use it, how to use it, and the like is a little nebulous at best right now. So I think that small communities of users will get together to share their experiences. We're starting to get into an area with some of these metrics that are spread across golf courses now and not course specific. Like, the best one to say is, like, if we go to golf course A, and during the tournament we find out that the best moisture content in the greens is at 17%. That's what makes this golf course tick. I cannot take that 17% to the next golf course I go to, or the next golf course, or the next golf course. It is a metric unto that golf course that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Green speed, the same way. It is a metric to that golf course. Some golf courses have no more than 2.5% slope on their greens, and some have places that have 10. So you can't put the green speed in the same kind of parallel. Firmness is one that does kind of move across a couple of things, but even then, it's still, are your greens push up. You're more a victim of how your golf course was built, more so than what you can realistically do to your golf course. You can get it to trend better with sand top dressing and aerifications and those types of things. So now you get to 2 other metrics, which by and large, smoothness, trueness, I kind of treat the same. They if one goes up, the other one goes up. If one goes down, the other goes down. I haven't been able to pry apart the differences in their metrics. I'm really concentrated on the smoothness side of things. There's one that can move across golf courses. If you're putting a golf course and you putt one golf course one day, one golf course the next day at similar times, there's a quality there apart from green speed, moisture, firmness that carries from one golf course to the other. There's a characteristic there that becomes desirable, that I prefer smoother greens versus bumpy greens. And I think that's where there's some minefields to be had on how the metrics are treated, shared, and the like. So there's a pitfall to it, but at the same time, I think that green speed hopefully will take a back seat, because if you have faster, bumpier greens, our players would prefer smoother, truer greens over faster greens. And that might change how we manage things. I think these metrics, these new metrics, will give us the ability to take opinion out of the equation. Well, I think our greens are better than yours. Well, now we're going to have some data that literally could add a component of, it's just the facts. they're not, or they are, or these are the best ones. But I think there's a hesitancy on a lot of people to start posting what those are. There's also times at which, like, you can't have the smoothest greens all the time. So there's where I hope that we focus, is that you focus on when you need to be the smoothest for your event, and those things that contribute to that, more so than trying to, chase something that, much like anything, you can overdo everything.
Consistency is key. So if we're working off of the smoothness, then that could be something that could be really helpful for sure.
Yeah. I'm interested to see. It's so new, and we're a creative bunch as superintendents. So I'm really interested to see what people do with it.